Welcome back to the show, Seekers. We all heard the concept that our actions have consequences and the wheel is always spinning. And don't we often draw solace from this concept, perhaps when someone has hurt us? Today, we're going to explore the true depths of karma, not as fate or punishment, but as a profound law tied to our actions, intentions, thoughts, and spiritual evolution. And yes, what to do to keep the wheel spinning in your favor and how to end the cycle of reincarnation. We are going to first give an overview on how different cultures and religions view karma, and then make sure you stick around until the end of the episode because we are going to break down its complexity and get into details with the vortex healing understanding of its structure and manifestation into your own consciousness. Are you ready? Karma comes from the Sanskrit word karman, meaning action or deed. In Hindu philosophy, karma refers not only to physical actions, but also to our words and even our thoughts. The idea is simple yet profound. Every action has consequences. These consequences unfold over time and may affect this life or future lives. Karma is not a punishment or a reward, it's a cosmic principle of balance. The earliest references to karma can be found in the Upanishads, ancient spiritual texts that emphasize ethical living and self realization. Later, Hindu epics like the Bhagavad Gita articulate karma more clearly through the lens of Dharma, duty, and yoga, spiritual discipline. Hinduism describes karma in three main categories: Sanchita karma, the accumulated karma from past lives; Prarabdha, Prarabdha karma, the portion of Sanchita karma that's being experienced in this lifetime; and Kriyamana karma, the karma we are creating right now through our current actions. Understanding this helps answer questions like why are we born into certain circumstances? Why do some challenges seem to appear out of nowhere? In Hindu, it's not randomness, it's the unfolding of the Prarabdha karma. Karma is tightly linked to samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. A soul, or Atman, continues to reincarnate until it exhausts its karmic depths and attains moksha, liberation from the cycle. Moksha isn't simply freedom from life, it's union with the divine, where we realize our true nature beyond the limitations of ego and body. Karma, then, is the mechanisms that propels us towards this awakening. Karma is often misunderstood as instant justice or fate, but Hinduism sees karma like a long-term spiritual accounting system, if you wish. So it's not about punishment, it's about learning. Hinduism seems to really grasp the whole deal with karma, and they did this around 1500 BCE. This idea of moral consequences isn't just unique to Hinduism. So let's now explore how other cultures and religions echo or diverge from this principle. In Buddhism, karma literally means action, but more precisely, it refers to intentional action. The Buddha famously said, intention, I tell you, is karma. This means that what truly matters is not just what we do, but why we do it. Mental, verbal, and physical actions all generate karma, but only when it's driven by volition, so by a deliberate and intentional choice. Karma for Buddhists also fuels the cycle of samsara. So again, the loop of birth, death, and rebirth. And wholesome actions lead to favorable rebirths, unwholesome actions leads to suffering and lower realms. But the ultimate goal in Buddhism isn't just to collect good karma, is to transcend karma altogether by achieving something called nirvana, which is the cessation of suffering. Here is the thing. Buddhism teaches anatta, or no permanent self. So, if there is no fixed me, who will receive this karma? For Buddhism, karma doesn't cling to a soul, it flows through mental and behavioral patterns. And what is reborn is not a self, but is a stream of consciousness shaped by karmic imprints. Nirvana is the freedom from suffering and the illusion of self. In Jainism, karma is seen as a subtle material substance that clings to the soul. Liberation, moksha, comes from shedding karmic particles through asceticism. So the practice of self-denial and the abstinence from all indulgent things and non-violence. Unlike Hinduism, Jainism sees karma as mechanical and not governed by divine will. Sikhism accepts karma but places emphasis on God's grace, nadar, where good deeds matter but ultimate liberation depends on divine will. Christianity doesn't use the term karma but teaches moral accountability through sin, repentance, and divine judgment. It emphasizes linear salvation, so one life, one judgment rather than cyclical rebirth, and redemption is through faith and grace, not accumulated deeds. Where many indigenous cultures believe in the interconnectedness and reciprocity, where actions affect not just the individual, but the community and the environment. Judaism believes that people receive consequences that mirror their actions. So if someone acts with kindness, kindness return. If someone causes harm, they might face similar harm. Judaism teaches that consequences are administered by God's will. Action matter, but repentance can change outcomes, and divine mercy can override strict justice. While classical texts like the Torah and the Talmud do not mention reincarnation explicitly, the general belief is one life, one judgment, followed by some sort of spiritual continuation, while Kabbalistic and mystical Judaisms introduced the idea of Gilgul Neshamot, the transmigration of souls, where souls may reincarnate to complete unfinished spiritual tasks or fulfill mitzvot, commandments or good deeds given by God that they have missed in previous lives. It is also possible to come with something called kliplot, singular klipa, that comes from past lives as a result of our actions. What we can objectively conclude is that karma's universal appeal lies in its moral logic. Our actions shape our reality. Whether through divine judgment, cosmic law, or communal balance, cultures around the world seem to agree. What we do matters. Now, let's go even deeper and try to understand karma in its different aspects, layers, expressions, and manifestations, and what you can do to effectively resolve and clear your karma and complete your incarnational journey. First of all, you can actually imagine karma as just unprocessed stuff, undigested experiences. But let us start from us, each one of us. Each of us as humans experience themselves as a separate being. That separate being has the experience of having a history. You experience life as the sum of your experiences. The life you lived gives you a story, a history. However, your personal history goes beyond these experiences and memories that started in your childhood. And it goes back millions of lifetimes. Those millions of lifetimes condition your experience of life and also shape your emotions and attitudes. That actually is already a way that karma manifests as conditioning, as your own issues. You have carried them with you. Together with those, you're also carrying issues in your genetic makeup that were passed to you from your ancestors, like streams of consciousness embedded in your DNA. And you have to consider those ancestors also had a long journey of reincarnation after reincarnation. So all these emotional history, genetic, karmic memory merges with your own consciousness. And we are going to continue this million years journey until eventually we realize we awaken out of our own reality as a separate being, and we realize our oneness with divinity. The purpose of this long ride is for you to get to the point where you wake up out of the illusion of the ego, of separation, out of our identification with separateness, out of the illusion of being a separate I, a separate me, and realize that you are more than your body, your mind, and your thoughts. If you're interested in awakening and you're listening to this right now, probably there is something set off in your journey that even if awakening doesn't happen in this life quite yet, or perhaps in the next 100 lives or whatever, is still something that is set in motion for you, and it will happen when you're ready. Buried deep under all your conditioning and anything that is not awakeness is conditioning. But under all that other stuff, there is a mechanism built into what we are, where awareness has the intention to understand its own nature. So creation manifests as consciousness, and consciousness is only found within creation. So, for awareness to be aware of itself, therefore, when divinity has awareness, it recognizes itself. At that moment, there is a reflection, something gets manifested, and that is consciousness. And with that, the sense of I, of identity, of me, mine, of separation. Awareness, which still has an identity, but that identity is not an identity of ego, it's not an egoic identity, it's an identity of freedom. And even that disappears into divinity. Divinity as awareness, it recognizes itself as consciousness. Here we are, you and me, an expression of divinity that is having an experience of itself as consciousness. But awareness is there and was always there, is within us. It's like, as one of the VortexHealing teachers said, his name is Daniel, and you can find the video I'm talking about on YouTube or Instagram. Awareness is like a quality of the divine that is having an experience as consciousness, and at the same time is part of the manifestation as consciousness. We are divinity having an experience, but because we're in separation, we don't even realize that. The concept of awakening is that there must be more to life than just survival. And from there is the urge to find something more that arises. And again, because of this intention of awareness to understand its own nature, eventually, at whichever point in your history as a human being on Earth, it will happen. So you're doing great. How do we stop the cycle of reincarnation? Because awakening alone is not enough to end it. You will still have something called incarnational personality to deal with. We'll get to that later, but for now, the simple answer is get to a certain level of awakening. When the awakening will have reached certain deeper levels, with that, part of your incarnational package will have matured enough to be cleared, so you won't have to come back to Earth. Yay! But for now, to answer the question of how to stop the cycle of reincarnation, think of it as when your karmic stuff has been cleared and played out enough. The deeper the awakening you reach, the higher is the dimension of consciousness where you will end up once you die. At basic awakening, In VortexHealing, we call this after losing the core veil. You will become a 7th to 8th dimensional being. I personally have completed my incarnational journey, and at my level of awakening, I will either be a 10th dimensional being, or if I'm spiritually mature enough, after I die, I could actually blast back into the light, which sounds awesome. But if you're freaked out about not being able to reincarnate, don't worry. There are people who become 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th dimensional beings, and they absolutely don't need to reincarnate, but they choose to do so and come back to Earth and become a teacher to help humanity. So if you know Mother Mira, she's a 7th, I think she might be 8th, say 7th dimensional being who has reincarnated, and actually she can also bridge 10th dimensional light. Meher Baba, you can look him up. He was a 10th dimensional being. Curiosity, fun fact, whatever you want to call it, what we know as gods and goddesses are 7th and 8th dimensional beings, like Hindu gods or other civilizations like Egyptian god and goddesses. Actually, just a note on Egyptian ones, since we are touching this. At some point, it seems in Egyptian religion and culture, at least the main thread of it was taken over by something. In Vortex Healing, we refer to those as a demonic god. To give you an example, Satan is the big demonic god, like the big boss demonic god. So if you work with Egyptian beings, you want to be very careful. Apart from goddess Isis, she's actually super safe and beautiful to work with. She is actually a 9th dimensional being. One Vortex teacher said that if you tune into the writings on things like sarcophagus, they will try to take you somewhere, and that somewhere is a demonic god. But fear not, all the Vortex Healing teachers dealt with all of those and closed all the doors. So rest assured that you can enjoy your trip through history and mysteries of ancient Egypt in complete safety. Thank you, Vortex Healing teachers. You are the best. Let's go back to karma. Okay, whatever we did either in a past life or in our current life comes back to us. And some might even say it comes back multiplied by 3, like the Wiccan credo goes something like in good or bad, remember the law of 3. So everything we do, we think and we feel sets off an energetic vibration that goes out in the universe and that creates a ripple effect that comes back to us. All of life, whether that is manifested, unmanifested, or beyond, is a one unified whole. Karma and conditioning still exist beyond the 10th dimension of consciousness. The 10th dimension is like a container of time within which infinite universes can exist, like infinite possibilities. After the 10th dimension, there is something called non-dimensional consciousness. And beyond that, there is only divinity, which has absolutely none of those. So, karma manifests in 3 different ways. You have external events, internal conditioning, and transcendental influences. External events type of karma is when whatever you put out as actions, which bear in mind can also be a reflection of your own internal stuff. So your conditioning reflects your actions. If you are a very angry person, you might punch somebody at the pub. So your actions come back to you in your external reality as events and happenings. This is just a way that divinity uses to make us grow, learn, and take responsibility for what we create. And it does this in a way and at a time that it will be best for you to understand, to learn the energy that you set off. So, to give you a couple of examples, say you committed suicide in a past life by setting yourself up in flames. A couple of lifetimes later, you are born with a severe skin condition that is disfiguring your face. Or maybe 100 lifetimes ago, you have brutally murdered someone. Now, in this current life, divinity thinks that is the best time for you to learn, and the best way for you to learn that what you did is can be, I don't know, the death of a child, or maybe you will be violently abused, something similar. The important thing to understand here is simply that there is no way out. There is no escape from karma to play out. Even through an immense amount of grace, this karma, the karma of events, still has to play out. So, even if you have done an insane amount of sealing and divinity softens whatever you created back to you, it still has to happen until whatever you set out neutralizes, reabsorbs before you have completed the game, your incarnational journey. For example, say you were supposed to be in a major incident that would have costed your life, but you have done a lot of VortexHealing and you've done a lot of good things and you have cleared a lot of your karma. So instead of a car accident being your final call, divinity gets you out of it with I don't know, dropping a mug on your toes, or you'll fall on your face in yoga class and break a elbow or whatever. So this happens even if you have already awakened in this life. Awakening does not give you a free karmic pass, but also you can awaken in the midst of external karmic events. For instance, you could awaken during a major life illness. Another aspect of karma, as we said, is your internal baggage that you have accumulated since the start of your incarnational journey. And this karma can block your spiritual awakening because it reinforces the sense of separateness you are experiencing as human being. Awakening does not mean also that all your conditioning will be gone. In fact, you will never be able to clear all your conditioning, and that's okay. You don't need to. Let's now talk about the karma of transcendental events. So the karma of transcendental events refer to some sort of like higher dimensional structures, map like higher dimensional blueprints, something called divine structures. Could be an example of that, which is something like some next level big blueprint, higher dimensional map put in place by divinity to sort of guide your life a certain way and influence your issues and karmic positions. Those higher dimensional blueprints are generally created at conception, although you might have actually carried some from past lives. And those blueprints are created for external events, but also for your deepest emotional reality. And this is a way that divinity is making your life going in a particular direction, even with the relationship with your parents or siblings. Again, please remember this is not a punishment or a divine broomstick in your wheels. This is all to help you sort out your karma and ensure you are on the right path towards understanding. So it's all out of love, ultimately. So to help you learn and to stay on track with your spiritual evolution. Only the higher levels of VortexHealing can release this. At high levels of VortexHealing, we can release these divine structures, dimensional blueprints, and even create new higher dimensional blueprints to create a new pattern of consciousness that is free and not supporting of certain issues or patterns. And we can do this in very few minutes, even at a distance. But listen up, y'all. The good news is actually good karma exists. And even better, it mimics the same free qualities as the bad stuff. So, external events, internal conditioning, and transcendental influences. These transcendental influences we just spoke about, divine structures, blueprints, also exist to help you out and even to make you more successful. This is why some people, they just seem to be very, very lucky and successful. Advanced vortex healer can create positive blueprints in higher dimensions in like a minute or two. When talking about good karma is when we should perhaps mention the concept of Dharma. Dharma is one of the most profound and foundational concepts in Hinduism. Dharma and karma are intertwined. Acting in accordance with Dharma generates positive karma, which influences future experiences and spiritual evolution, while violating Dharma leads to adharma or disorder, which can result in suffering and spiritual stagnation. The word dharma comes from the Sanskrit meaning to hold or to sustain. In Hinduism, it refers to the moral and ethical duties that uphold cosmic order, personal integrity, and social harmony. It's not just about the rules, it's about living in alignment with truth, purpose, and greater good. So Dharma isn't just one size fits all. It's dynamic and deeply personal. You have the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal, universal principles like truth, compassion, and non-violence. Svadharma, one's personal duty based on one's individual nature, role in society, and stage of life. Varna Dharma, duties based on social class, such as teacher, warrior, merchant, or laborer. And then we have the Ashrama Dharma, which are duty based on life stages, like student, householder, retiree. So each person's Dharma is unique, and fulfilling it is seen as essential for spiritual growth and societal balance. In practice, this means that when life offers you a role, whether that is by choice, circumstances, or through relationships, living that role fully and wholeheartedly is Dharma. To hesitate, resist, or neglect it creates bondage or karma. So, Dharma is about the harmonious role we have and depends on the context and situation. You have Dharma as a mother, father, sister, child, employee. This is what Buddhists call right action, the best fitting response in a situation leading to harmony. And the final, ultimate Dharma is one for all, God realization. Smaller Dharma actions will lead to the final Dharma. To give you another practical example, say your husband is ill and in a lot of pain. You will be suffering, meeting the karmic challenge of struggle, hardship, and powerlessness. If you heal and move into Dharma and approach the same challenge with honor and devotion and as a service that comes from love, you'd be fulfilling Dharma. Shout out to a bunch of my wizard buddies for helping me out a bit with this Dharma concept. Now, I'd like to touch the matter of soul contracts. This is something you hear very often in the spiritual community. You just have to open YouTube, pick any tarot reader, and you'll find someone telling you that you are absolutely having a soul contract with the person of your interest. In the matter of soul contracts, the view of vortex healing is that there is no such a thing like contracts between people, and that is just humans projecting something larger. The only thing that exists is divinity with karma and grace. That is what determines what you have to experience, when, and with whom. But you will often play out that karma with people that you have met before. Hence why we think we have contracts with people. as it can easily look that way. So, no soul contracts, just divinity and karma and grace. You'll probably play out the karma with someone you have met before, but it's not a contract between the two of you. Let us now break down the actual structure of karma, how it's concretely built into our human consciousness and system, the more technical aspects, if you wish. How does it actually manifest in our field of consciousness? This to follow is also all the stuff you will work with a vortex healer when you're working on your karma and clearing your karma. I might get really specific here, but this level of details is not for you to remember, so don't worry if you get confused. It's actually very likely you will. If you think this is really cool stuff and you want to understand it, then go and study vortex healing. We have wonderful teachers that can explain to you everything you need to know about this stuff. I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm just a vortex healing practitioner for our students. And I get really, really excited to talk about this stuff. And I really love to share my passion about this. I hope I'm not boring you. But again, don't get caught up in details. This is just for you to have a deeper understanding of what goes on in your experience as a human and why we think, feel, and act a certain way. So let's get rolling. So we said earlier, karma and conditioning exist on every dimension and still exist beyond the 10th dimension of consciousness. The 10th dimension is like a container of time in which infinite universes can exist, infinite possibilities, and after this 10th dimension, there is something called non-dimensional consciousness, and beyond that, there is only divinity, which has gone none of those. So, let's start from the karma of conditioning. For this aspect of karma, we can work basically to empty the luggage. Let's do this. So, to understand this one better, imagine yourself holding two boxes with your karma. In one box, you have something called your incarnational package, which carries your past life's history, and in the other one, you have your body, your physical body with your genetic DNA, which carries your personal history and ancestral history. Let's unpack the first box, the incarnational package. We, incarnational beings, having both a body and a mind that has traveled with us through eons, we call this incarnational body and karmic mind. The incarnational body is like a container, like a vehicle that allows us to move from one life to another, and is made out of something called vital webbing, which is like sort of like a densification of once divinity decides to experience itself, it sort of like densifies down into vital webbing. The karmic mind is its consciousness, which holds our karmic issues, attitudes, positionalities, all of our life's history and memories from which our current life experiences will be generated. So, everything you have experienced in past life have impacted both of these, and when you reincarnate, it will be a major source of conditioning for your consciousness and also your energy system, because this whole package of consciousness, which again is called incarnational personality, so your karmic mind and your incarnational body, comes through your spine at incarnation, and it will express through something called the karmic body, which is one of your 8 energetic bodies. So, really, all of that consciousness sitting there and expressing through your karmic body, which has now become the interface for your incarnational personality. All that incarnational consciousness is actually your psychological self, ultimately, Psychology is a beautiful healing modality, and I will always encourage you to go and see your therapist or go find a good one. But there is so much more to you than your current life experiences that shape your mental state and your energy system and your experience of life. What you experience in this life is the sum of your experience as a separate being through the illusion of ego and separateness, your issues, all these other source of conditioning, and all the fixations and realms you created in this life. Realms are like a local, self-contained, self-feeding area of consciousness. So if you have a deep issue, that issue can create a local realm out of its own consciousness. Vortex healers can clear issue realms from very early trainings, actually. Fixations can hold an issue in place even when all the karmic stuff around it has been cleared. You can also have fixations held in your karmic mind, which are called karmic mind fixations and are carried from life to life. Present life fixations don't get carried into next lives as fixations, but they do leave a strong karmic imprint into the karmic mind. An advanced vortex healing practitioner can clear fixations in like no time. Together with your karmic mind, your incarnational personality's consciousness includes something called your karma knots, the karmic webbing, and karmic body Grammy, which the last one, the karmic body Grammy, it's quite rare though. In my career so far, I only had 2 clients who had it. Then you have Grammys, normal Grammys, which are also made out of karmic webbing, and your karmic field. Although the incarnational personality's consciousness is present at conception, it will take about 3 months for it to embody. Time for the fetus basically to develop a spine, as again, the incarnational personality will sit into the energetic body called karmic body, which is into the spine. A good starting point for us to talk about and for you to take care of at your next vortex healing session will be to be clearing your karma knots. People generally have about 230 to 250 karma knots. Some people have 500, some people can even have thousands of karma knots. Those look like basically black balls along your spine, and you can imagine them to be like focal points, anchor points for your unresolved emotional issues from past lives. Those are super important because basically they are the very foundation of your issues. Usually people will clear one karma knot when they die if they are lucky enough to make peace with their issues. People that have spent a lot of time meditate, sometimes they lose two when they die. And you can clear a karma knot with a vortex healer as early as their first level of vortex healing training. This will take the foundational training student of vortex healing 3 hours to clear one karma knot. Just 6 levels of training after at a training called Omega level, a vortex healer can clear anything between 5 to 10 karma knots in only 1 minute. It is a very intense release, so we wouldn't just sit there until they are all cleared. And this particular release is done within the context of a session, as your energy system needs to be energized to facilitate this deep release. But if you see a healer at my level of training, you will be actually karma knots free in a few sessions. Dogs and cats have karma knots, but just like 1 or 2, maybe 3. If your dog barks a lot, you can actually hire a vortex healer to clear your pet's karma knots. Once a karma knot is cleared on a karmic level, the issue is released and resolved, and it will never return. all the other conditioning of the tissue will still be imprinted everywhere else on your consciousness and energy system, but just the release of the karma knot will move the human to a new level of consciousness, of oneness, and from there it's much easier to work on the rest of the baggage because the major root is gone. Here is where deep issue work comes handy with vortex healing to go ahead and clear all the rest. You can take an issue and take it through something called issue protocol to completely clear it from your consciousness and energy system. Clearing karma knot has a huge positive impact on your energy system. It's sort of like a boost of fresh air and vitality. And if you lose all of your karma knots before you die, you will have to come back to clear out the rest of the baggage, but you will not have any karmic issue. So it will make your life easy peasy, buddy. And it's actually highly likely that it will be your last life. So just one more rep. When talking about karma knots, without going much into details, we have to talk about the beginning of ego to truly understand the structure of a karma knot. But basically, the beginning of ego is not a localized individual ego, but it's universal. Then it grows into focalized, we call those I points, that keep getting denser through dimensions. Your soul actually arises in the eighth dimension out of these densifying localized points of focused ego until it's dense enough to enter the incarnational personality and becomes your core veil, which is what creates your sense of I, is the veil of separateness that you need to break down to have your basic awakening. That is the meaning of awakening, basic awakening, and losing your core veil on a technical level. Your first karma knot created will also be the last one to be released. It sits in your tailbone sacrum area. Your first karma knot holds the experience of separateness as an issue. So it's like the issue of the experience of being separate. When your first karma knot arises in your spine at the third month of being in your mom's belly, now you are officially an individual being, an incarnational being, an incarnational personality, a human being. Welcome to Earth. So once this happens, out of the newly formed karmic body, you'll get these webs that hold the intention to express all the issues and history of the incarnational personality, as well as all the issues and history itself. We call this karmic webbing. Even when all your karma knots are gone, the karmic webbing remains. But don't worry, this is very easy to clear at high levels of vortex healing. In fact, after a few training classes, you can work on this. It will just be very slow as this karmic webbing is quite dense. This karmic webbing extends to your genetics, to your chakras, to your physical body, to the emotional, etheric, and mental bodies, therefore imprinting them with its conditioning. When there is an emotional charge that is strong enough, or even a fixation, something called a karmic structure gets formed. At high levels of vortex healing, we can clear easily dense and large karmic structures in a matter of minutes. Apart from impacting your emotional consciousness, they can even impact an organ or a chakra when those karmic structures are old enough, about 6 lives old. They have now become a Grammy, which has similar effects to karmic structures, but is much stronger. Those usually are about hundreds of thousands of years old. People usually have 2 to 5, sometimes up to 10, and those can be cleared by advanced vortex sealers simultaneously in minutes. and actually clearing those will have major impacts on your emotional consciousness and, as we said, organs too. Then we have something called the karmic field. This is a layer of universal consciousness that holds all interconnections of karmic cause and effects from the beginning of each being's personal history. Yes, you are right. The universe never forgets anything. It's all being recorded, it's all being stored. Here is where you will become hooked to another person. But karma does not need to play out with them. And if it does, remember there are no karmic contracts, only karma, divinity, and with it grace. At my level of VortexHealing, healers can clear out completely your own karmic field in about 15 to 20 minutes. These fields also exist between two ancestral genetic lines on a karmic level. The karmic field between two ancestral lines can also be cleared with VortexHealing tools. VortexHealing can facilitate healing of the incarnational consciousness and personality of people who have died up to 6 weeks after their death at my level of training. So you can actually clear your beloved karma once they have passed away and give them a better life once they are ready to come back. Okay, so remember those two boxes we were holding in your hands that represented how your karma is expressed in your consciousness? So we have unpacked the first one with the label incarnational package. Now we're going to unwrap the box named genetic body. So your own personal incarnational history merges together with the genetic karmic history in your local consciousness. Part of the merging is what is absorbed into the internal structure of the DNA, which then will become a whole unified genetic makeup of your own personal karmic history from this life and past lives and your ancestors' karmic history. Also, it will contain epigenetic imprints and a core program based on survival, which we call genetic core veil. This gets dropped if you take VortexHealing class and you do the core veil class. I think this one gets dropped in that class. However, Vortex Healer of a high enough level can clear all the karmic imprints on your DNA, all epigenetics of mother, father lines, and other sources of negative conditioning on the epigenetics in a few hour sessions. I would suggest you do some regular vortex healing before you do go and ask your healer to clear the karmic imprints in the genetics, as it's quite a heavy release and it will go much slower unless you have done other work. Your healer will know what to do anyways. The important thing to remember here is that all this genetic karmic history that is generating conditioning right within every cell of your body is also history guided by genetic emotional imprints and higher dimensional blueprints and consciousness that will then be translated into genetic emotional patterns. 50% of your karma is actually on your genetics. Why should we bother clearing it? It's not that your ancestors were bad people. Maybe they were, I don't know. But basically, they had a lot going on in their lives and past lives as much as you did. And you basically don't need to remember their suffering and dramas. And if you clear it then and you have kids, they won't need to remember those dramas either. So, to recap, you do not need to clear all your karmic baggage to awaken, but you do need to awaken and clear enough karmic baggage in order not to reincarnate. Awakened people are growing every day on earth, and if you manage to stick with me until here, then probably something has already set off for you on your awakening path. I am incredibly lucky to have encountered the transformative grace of the vortex healing lineage on my path that allowed me to clear enough of my incarnational package and reach a deeper level of awakening so I won't have to reincarnate. I would highly recommend to you to read Awaken Through the Veils by Rick Wayman, founder and current lineage holder of the VortexHealing lineage, which is basically a manual to awakening. I also would encourage anyone to experience the power and grace of vortex healing by booking a session with a vortex healer or taking classes for yourself. And if you want to experience the transformative power of vortex healing at its highest levels for yourself, make sure you save this date because on the 20th of November, I am offering a free 90 minutes online group healing on the theme of releasing your most significant emotional and psychological issues, and it's free. Space are limited, but you have to book yours. You can visit magicalmara.co.uk to book the special free event. If you want to contact me or book a one-on-one session with me, you can reach me at info@marabrami.com or visit magicalmara.co.uk. You can also find me on Instagram at magicalmara_. If you want to book a one-on-one session with me, you can use my listeners code Seekers15 to get 15% off any of my one-on-one sessions, relationship healings, healing of the deceased, space clearing, and more. I also run online distance group healings every Tuesday at 6 p.m. UK. That is 10 a.m. Pacific time and 1 p.m. Eastern time for the price of £20 per sessions, which lasts 90 minutes. It's a beautiful sacred space to come together and work on your issues, karma, and emotional, psychological, and spiritual development. Stay tuned for more episodes of Seekers of Grace here on News for the Soul every second Thursday of the month at 12 p.m. Pacific time. Until then, remember your love and compassion. Keep your heart open. Be good, be well, and be loved. Your magic. I love you.